Welcome in, everybody, to this intro edition of this new podcast called 52 Ways. And I guess the expanded title is 52 Ways to Love One Another like Jesus loved us. And I want to take just a minute here to give you a taste of what this podcast is going to be all about so you can decide if this is a podcast you want to listen to on a regular basis. We're going to release an episode every week, probably on Wednesday afternoons. And it'll be something that we'll do all through the year of 2022. That's why we call it 52 ways, because there's one for each week of the year. I know, genius, right? But my name is Scott Milford, and I'm going to be your host on the podcast. My son, Christian, is going to join me each week, and we're going to benefit from his 17-year-old perspective and his logical brain as we go through these conversations. I have a 48-year-old perspective, because I'm 48, and I have a less logical brain. And so I think he and I are going to complement each other well as we go through this experience this year. And here's what this is really all about. I think that if you've been asking the question, or at least thinking in your head, what can I do to help develop my faith, to really take it to the next level, to become the person that God created me to become, to become more Christ-like in my time here on this earth. I think this podcast is going to give you probably more than you bargained for, and it's going to really give you an opportunity to do that, because we're going to focus in on what Jesus said was the most important thing, and that is to love one another the way that he loved us. So this is going to do that. And I think that this podcast also has the potential to help answer the question that you may be wondering or asking even out loud, which is, what can I do to improve my relationships? And this podcast will help you with that. There's no doubt about it, because we're going to talk about what are the things that Jesus did to love the people that he encountered while he was here on earth. And then how can we take those examples, those themes, those actions that we see evidenced in his life, how can we take those and apply them to our life? So we're going to dig right into the things that he said really will help you to love each other and to serve each other. And I promise you, if you do these things, your relationships with your coworkers, your family, your friends, your neighbors, even your enemies will improve. How about that? And then finally, if you've been asking yourself the question, what can I do to help my world? And let's face it, we live in a messed up, divided, hate-filled world right now. And it's politically driven, it's politically divided, it's divided over religion. There's just been so many things that have driven divides between us. And I know that breaks the heart of God, because that's not how his design is intended. We've messed it up. And I hate to say it, but in the Christian world, we have largely contributed to how messed up it is. We have, I think over the past few years, we have valued being right more than we've valued building relationships and bridges towards those relationships. And so, I think if we could just get a quick answer from God on, hey, what would you rather us do? Be right about masks or vaccines or any of these other hot topics that are going on right now, or would you rather us build relationships with your children? I have a feeling he would say build the relationships. So we're going to dive in and use the example that Jesus set for us in the Gospels. We're going to dive in and figure out what can we do as a church body to not only improve our relationships individually and help us to become more Christ-like and stronger in our faith, but what can we do as a church body to improve our country, our nation, and even our world? This is a world that so sorely needs Jesus. And if we're not willing to sacrifice, if we're not willing to do the hard work that's going to help people see that's going to help people open their mind and their heart to accepting Christ in their life, then I don't feel like we're really fulfilling what Jesus asked us to fulfill. We're not fulfilling the Great Commission. We're not living up to our end of the bargain of the new covenant, the covenant of love. So this podcast, we're going to have some fun. Christian and I, my son, we're going to dive into specific moments where Jesus interacted with people and we're going to learn from it. And we're going to tie it to the fruits of the Spirit, because the fruits of the Spirit, I believe, are the tools that were brought to us through the Holy Spirit. And we have at our disposal today to implement the things that Jesus implemented whenever he interacted with people. Patience, love, kindness, gentleness, all these things. We're gonna figure out how those tie into the way that we can love like Jesus. I think people oftentimes talk about loving one another like Jesus loved us, and it's more of a concept, but it's not something that feels actionable or practical or tangible. And so really the goal here of this podcast is to research what that looks like in real life. And yeah, there's a lot of situations that are going to feel near impossible to put ourselves second, third, fourth, or last in order to put somebody else first the way that Jesus asked us to. But we're going to dive into those things. We're going to see how, when is it practical, or when is it possible to do that, and when is it not? And, how close to that bar that Jesus set do we really need to get? And I don't have all the answers at this point. I'm going to be learning as we go here, right along with Christian and right along with you. But I want to invite you into this journey as we travel through 2022, 52 ways to love one another like Jesus loved us. That's what we're in for. We're going to post it on Wednesday afternoons. It'll be on all the different podcast services that are out there. We'll also have some interactive things, some ways that you can email in or communicate to us if you have some questions or some comments, some feedback. Definitely want to do that. So share this thing with folks. This is definitely a podcast that is meant for Christians, although I would love for non-Christians to gain some insight into what Jesus really was all about. There's probably a lot of non-Christians out there that have an opinion of Christians that isn't an accurate reflection of what Christians really should be. So maybe this podcast can help shed some light into what Jesus really stood for and what he challenged us to become. So I think we'll just leave it there for now. This was just the description to help you decide if this is a podcast that you want to listen to. And I hope that you'll come along with Christian and I on this journey of 52 ways. Until next time, be well, my friend.